You see, the moment you stop caring, truly stop caring, that's the moment everything begins to shift. That's the moment you take back your power. Because what most people don't understand is that caring too much about what they think, about how they feel, about whether they'll stay or leave, turns into need. And need is weakness. Need is chasing energy. When you chase, you lose leverage. You give your energy away. You tell the world, I'm not enough without you. And guess what? The moment someone feels that energy from you, they pull back. They lose respect. They lose attraction. Because people don't fall in love with neediness, they fall in love with strength. Now, let's flip it. When you stop caring, when you detach emotionally from the outcome, something powerful happens. You begin to radiate confidence. You begin to live from abundance, not lack. You're no longer desperate for their attention because you've already got your own. You become the prize. And when you become the prize, they come chasing you. Think about it, the person who doesn't need validation has all the power. The one who can walk away at any moment with peace in their heart is untouchable. That's magnetic. That's what draws them in because they can feel it. You're not trying to control them. You're not begging for love. You're being loved. You're no longer reactive. You're intentional. So how do you get there? You shift your focus. Stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, do I like myself? Stop wondering if you're enough for them and decide to be enough for you. Start doing things that make you feel alive again. Work out, read, create, grow, evolve. Because when you're in that energy of growth, you become unstoppable. And people are drawn to that fire. You want to know why not caring makes them want you more? Because they feel the freedom in your energy. They feel your self-respect. They feel that you're not afraid to lose them. And that's what makes them afraid to lose you. Understand this love is not about control. It's not about possession. It's about power, the power to choose yourself no matter what happens. The power to know that your worth doesn't depend on who texts back or who walks away. When you master that energy, everything changes. You walk differently. You talk differently. You smile differently. You stop chasing and you start attracting. The power of not caring isn't about coldness. It's about clarity. It's about saying, I'm going to live my life, build my world, and if you want to be a part of it, great. If not, I'll still shine. That's the mindset of freedom. That's the energy that makes people turn their heads, that makes them wonder what's different about you. And that's the energy that pulls them back, not because you tried to make them come back, but because you stopped needing them to. When you stop caring, you stop clinging. When you stop clinging, you rise. And when you rise, they'll feel it. They'll want to rise with you. That's the power of not caring. It's not indifference. It's independence. It's not apathy. It's alignment. You're not pushing anyone away. You're just standing so strong in your own truth that only those meant for you can stay. Detachment creates attraction because when you stop attaching your emotions to an outcome, you step into a state of power, not pursuit. Most people live their lives chained to the opinions, reactions, and validation of others. They give away their peace for the possibility of approval. They text and wait, overthink every silence, interpret every pause as rejection, and in that emotional chaos, they lose their power. But the moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop needing something from someone else, you become free, and that freedom radiates as strength. People can feel it. They sense when you are no longer desperate for their time, their attention, or their affection. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring entirely. It means you care from a place of peace, not fear. It's choosing to remain whole whether someone stays or leaves, choosing to keep your inner balance regardless of external circumstances. When you detach, you stop sending out signals of lack. You no longer vibrate at the frequency of need because you've already chosen yourself. You're not waiting for anyone to complete you. You're already complete. This is what creates attraction. People are drawn to what they can't control, what they can't easily have, what seems content and secure without their presence. It's the mystery, the composure, the calm confidence that magnetizes others. Because when someone feels that you're not dependent on their response, they start to value your energy differently. Your presence feels rare. Your attention becomes something earned, not given away cheaply. And in a world full of people begging for attention, that calm confidence stands out like light in the dark. Think about it. When you meet someone who is secure in who they are, who doesn't overreact, who doesn't chase, who doesn't try to prove their worth, you can't help but be drawn to them. You respect them. You want to understand them. That's the power of detachment. It silently demands respect. It says, I don't need you to validate me. I'm already whole. That energy changes the dynamic. The person who used to hold the power suddenly starts questioning themselves. They start to feel that subtle shift in control because now you're not reacting, You're responding. You're not waiting. You're creating. You're not desperate. You're deliberate. Detachment also brings clarity. When you're attached to someone or something, your emotions blur your judgment. You start to tolerate behavior you shouldn't. You start to ignore red flags. You make excuses. But when you detach, you see things for what they truly are, not what you wish them to be. You can assess the situation with calm observation instead of emotional reaction. That's where your strength comes from. You're no longer controlled by highs and lows, by messages and silences, by presence and absence. You find your rhythm within yourself. That internal stability becomes your new foundation, and it changes how people treat you. The moment you decide that your peace matters more than their attention, you become magnetic. Because attraction isn't about chasing, it's about alignment. When your energy says, I'm good either way, it commands curiosity. People want to know why you're so calm, why you're so confident, why you're not affected. And it's not an act, it's authentic. Detachment doesn't come from pretending you don't care. It comes from actually being okay. It's the emotional discipline to choose yourself first every single time. It's knowing that your worth isn't dependent on someone else's recognition of it. The paradox is that the less you care about being wanted, the more people want you. The less you need validation, the more validation finds you. The less you chase, the more you attract. Because now your energy says, I'm not trying to force anything. I trust what's meant for me. That trust is powerful. It's rare. It's peace disguised as confidence. And when someone feels that from you, it challenges them. It makes them want to rise to your level. It makes them want to earn a place in your world. You become the standard. Detachment also teaches self-respect. It reminds you that not everything deserves your time, energy, or emotion. You begin to understand that not everyone's opinion matters, not every invitation requires your presence, and not every connection deserves your vulnerability. You learn to observe without absorbing, to listen without reacting, to care without losing yourself. That's emotional mastery. That's when attraction becomes natural, because people can sense when your energy is clean, when you're not trying to manipulate or convince anyone. You're grounded, you're present. When you detach, you stop living in emotional debt. You stop trying to earn love, earn attention, earn acceptance. You realize that the right people will never make you chase. You start to prioritize your energy and protect your peace. You begin to make choices that come from strength, not fear. That shift changes everything. The same situations that once triggered you no longer do. The same people who once drained you lose their power. And in that silence, in that calmness, attraction grows. Because people are intrigued by peace. They're drawn to the one who doesn't need to prove, doesn't need to beg, doesn't need to chase. Detachment also creates space for self-growth. When you're no longer obsessed with controlling external outcomes, you have more time and energy to invest in yourself. You start to build your body, your mind, your purpose. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. That growth shifts your vibration higher, and people feel it. They see the difference in how you move, how you speak, how you handle challenges. You become unshakable. And that kind of energy is irresistible. So many people lose attraction because they give too much of themselves too soon. They reveal all their emotions, all their fears, all their energy without realizing that mystery is magnetic. Detachment allows mystery to exist. It allows curiosity to breathe. It makes people wonder what's going on in your world, what drives you, what makes you so centered. That's the beauty of it. You're not playing games. You're simply no longer playing the wrong ones. Detachment creates attraction because it's rooted in strength, not strategy. It's not about ignoring someone or acting cold. It's about mastering your emotions so you no longer depend on anyone else for balance. It's about standing tall in your own worth and saying, I choose peace, I choose power, I choose me. And when you consistently live from that energy, you naturally attract people who are also grounded, also whole, also ready. When you stop needing, you start leading. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you stop begging for attention, you start commanding it. Detachment transforms you from the seeker to the magnet. It's not an act. It's alignment with your highest self, because the one who doesn't cling, doesn't fear, and doesn't depend becomes the one everyone else is drawn to. That's why detachment creates attraction. It's not the absence of emotion, it's the presence of power. Confidence replaces neediness because confidence is the energy of self, certainty, while neediness is the vibration of fear. When you're confident, you radiate the message that you are enough, that you have value, that you don't need to be chosen to feel worthy. When you're needy, you communicate the opposite, that your happiness depends on something or someone outside of you. Confidence says, I am complete. Neediness says, I am missing something. And people can feel that difference immediately. The human mind is wired to sense emotional energy before words are even spoken. That's why confidence draws people in. It feels strong, safe, and grounded. Neediness, on the other hand, pushes people away because it feels heavy, demanding, and unstable. When you walk into a room confident in who you are, you don't have to announce it. Your presence speaks louder than words. People notice how you carry yourself, how you move, how you make eye contact. You don't seek approval, you give it to yourself. You're not waiting for someone to validate you because you've already decided you're enough. That kind of energy is magnetic. It doesn't try to pull. It naturally attracts. Confidence creates a gravitational pull that makes others curious. They want to know what you have, why you're so calm, why you're so unbothered. It's not arrogance. It's alignment. It's the deep knowing that your worth isn't up for debate. Neediness is born out of fear, the fear of loss, rejection, abandonment, or disapproval. When you're needy, you subconsciously try to control outcomes. You text too much, you overthink their words, you try to be perfect, all because you're scared to lose something you think defines your worth. But the paradox is that the more you chase, the more you repel. People can sense when your attention comes from fear instead of freedom. They feel that emotional pressure. It suffocates connection because it's rooted in expectation, not inspiration. Confidence frees you from that trap. It allows you to give love, attention, and energy without needing anything in return. You stop performing for approval and start living in authenticity. Confidence doesn't mean you never doubt yourself. It means you don't let that doubt control you. It means you trust yourself even when things are uncertain. You know you can handle whatever comes your way. That kind of inner security is rare. It's what makes people gravitate toward you. They feel safer around you, more grounded, because you're not trying to extract validation. You're sharing energy. You're not reaching outward. You're overflowing inward. That's what replaces neediness. You move from taking to giving, from craving attention to commanding presence. You can't fake true confidence. It's not in words or posture. It's in energy. You can pretend for a while, but energy never lies. When your confidence is real, it comes from self-trust, self-respect, and self-love. You stop trying to prove your value to anyone because you already know your worth. You stop asking, am I enough? And start declaring, I am enough. That declaration doesn't need to be spoken. It's felt. It shows in your tone, in your patience, in your boundaries. Confidence teaches you not to chase validation because you understand that validation means nothing if it costs your self-respect. The reason confidence attracts while neediness repels is because of emotional polarity. People are drawn to strength, certainty, and calmness. They crave stability even if they don't realize it. When you show up confident, you become the anchor in the storm. When you show up needy, you become the storm itself. Confidence communicates that you can handle life, that you're not dependent on external circumstances for happiness. It tells others that your world doesn't fall apart if they walk away, that you have purpose, goals, and identity beyond their approval. That's the kind of energy people want to be around. It feels empowering, not draining. Neediness, on the other hand, chases reassurance. It constantly asks, do you still care? Do you still like me? Am I still enough? And over time, that emotional repetition wears people down. It creates imbalance. Confidence, however, never asks those questions. It answers them internally. It says, I don't need to know if I'm enough for them because I'm already enough for me. That shift changes everything. When you live from that space, you stop waiting for someone to give you permission to feel good. You start creating your own emotional security. You start radiating calmness instead of chaos. Confidence also creates space. When you're confident, you don't feel the need to chase after what isn't flowing. You give people room to choose you freely. That space creates attraction. It gives others the freedom to lean in, to wonder, to pursue. When you're needy, you close that space. You smother the connection with constant checking, questioning, and control. Confidence breeds. Neediness suffocates. One says, I trust the process. The other says, I can't let go. The more confident you become, the easier it gets to release control because you trust that what's meant for you will never require you to beg for it. Confidence is also born through discipline. It's built when you keep promises to yourself, when you show up, when you grow, when you keep pushing even when no one's watching. Every time you do the hard thing, you build a little more self-trust. Every time you honor your word, you build internal strength. That strength becomes confidence. It's not something you read or learn. It's something you earn through consistency. When you've proven to yourself that you can rely on you, neediness disappears. Because neediness comes from self-doubt, from not trusting that you can handle life on your own. The stronger you become, the less you need to cling to anyone else for emotional security. Confidence also shifts your communication. When you're needy, You communicate from fear. You over-explain. You apologize excessively. You avoid confrontation. When you're confident, you communicate from peace. You speak your truth calmly, directly, and without anxiety. You don't fear losing people because you trust that those meant for you will stay. You stop seeking constant reassurance, and that makes your presence more powerful. People listen differently when you speak with certainty. They feel that you mean what you say. They respect it. Confidence also changes how you interpret rejection. When you're needy, rejection feels like the end of the world. It feels personal. When you're confident, rejection becomes redirection. You understand that someone not choosing you doesn't lower your value. It simply clarifies alignment. You stop taking it emotionally and start taking it energetically. That's the difference between trying to prove your worth and simply being your worth. Confidence lets you walk away peacefully, while neediness keeps you stuck trying to convince. And people feel that difference. It's not just seen, it's sensed. Confidence replaces neediness by changing the source of your validation. You stop looking outward and start looking inward. You stop waiting for people to tell you you're special and start reminding yourself of your value daily. You build a life so full that you no longer depend on anyone to complete it. When you're confident, your happiness isn't held hostage by anyone's opinion, message, or behavior. That's what makes you powerful. People can sense that power, and they respect it. They're drawn to it. Because in a world where most people are seeking approval, the one who already has it within themselves stands out effortlessly. Confidence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care differently. You still love deeply, connect fully, and give generously. But you do it from abundance, not lack. You're no longer trying to get love. You're sharing love. You're no longer seeking validation. You're expressing wholeness. And that's the kind of energy that transforms every relationship, every connection, every moment you step into. Because when you embody confidence, you no longer need to chase attraction. It starts chasing you. Self-worth is your true leverage because everything in life rises and falls on how much value you believe you bring to the table. It's the invisible currency that determines how you move, how you speak, what you accept, and what you walk away from. When your self-worth is high, you no longer beg for love, approval, or recognition. You don't chase people, you attract opportunities. You don't settle for crumbs, you wait for what matches your value. The world treats you based on how you treat yourself, and when you understand that, you realize your entire reality is a reflection of your internal belief system. If you think you're not enough, you'll act like it. You'll accept less, tolerate more, and confuse attention with affection. But when you know your worth, you stop negotiating your value for temporary validation. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You start standing in your truth with unshakable confidence. Self-worth isn't built overnight. It's built in the quiet moments when you decide not to betray yourself. It's built when you say no to things that drain your energy, when you set boundaries, when you walk away from people who treat you like an option. Every time you choose yourself over approval, you build leverage. That leverage isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's the power that comes from knowing you don't need to beg for what you deserve. It's the calm that comes when you realize you don't have to chase anything that's meant for you. People feel that energy. They sense your standards. They recognize when they can't manipulate or test your boundaries. That's the silent authority of self-worth. It demands respect without saying a word. When you lack self-worth, everything feels personal. Every rejection feels like proof you're not good enough. Every delay feels like punishment. Every challenge feels like confirmation of failure. But when you have self-worth, you stop taking things personally because you know your value doesn't change just because someone else can't see it. You stop tying your identity to external approval. You stop living in emotional debt. You realize that rejection doesn't lower your worth. It reveals someone's inability to recognize it. That shift changes everything about how you respond to life. Instead of asking, why me? You start asking, what's next? Instead of chasing what's unavailable, you redirect your energy into becoming even more whole. Self-worth gives you power in relationships, business, and every interaction you have. When you know your value, you don't over-explain, you don't over-prove, and you don't overstay where you're not appreciated. You become selective with your energy. You stop wasting it on people who drain you in situations that go nowhere. You understand that your time, attention, and peace are forms of currency. When you give them away too easily, you teach others that they cost nothing. But when you operate from self-worth, you protect your energy like it's gold, because it is. You know what you bring, and that belief alone shifts how others treat you. People respect those who respect themselves. Your self-worth also affects how you handle adversity. When you don't believe in your worth, you crumble under pressure because you think every obstacle means you're failing. But when you know your worth, you stand taller through the storm because you understand challenges don't define you, they refine you. You begin to see setbacks as redirections, not rejections. You stop begging for doors to open and start building your own. That's leverage, having the strength to know that your value remains intact no matter what happens externally. You stop negotiating your dreams down to the level of your insecurities. You start rising to meet the standard of your potential. Self-worth also dictates your standards in love. When you don't value yourself, you settle for half-effort connections, confusing toxicity for passion and attention for love. You tolerate inconsistency, excuses, and emotional chaos because you think that's all you deserve. But when you know your worth, you'd rather be alone than disrespected. You stop trying to convince people to choose you. You stop begging for time, energy, or validation. You become okay with silence because you've made peace with yourself. That energy shifts everything. The same people who once ignored your value begin to notice it, not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped trying to prove it. True self-worth isn't loud. It's quiet. It's not about showing off. It's about knowing that even when no one claps for you, you still matter. It's the calm confidence that says, I don't need you to see my light to know I'm shining. That kind of power can't be faked. It's built through self-awareness, discipline, and healing. It's built when you stop settling for surface-level validation and start doing the deep work, facing your wounds, healing your patterns, and rebuilding your self-image from the inside out. When you do that, you no longer attract people who exploit your weaknesses. You attract people who match your strength. The more you value yourself, the less permission you need to take up space. You stop asking if it's okay to want more, to demand better, to live boldly. You start realizing that playing small doesn't protect you. It limits you. You begin to dream bigger because you trust that you're capable of achieving more. You stop comparing yourself to others because you understand that your path is unique. You stop seeking shortcuts because you know your worth deserves the long game. That patience, that belief, that inner certainty, it's what separates those who rise from those who settle. When you operate from self-worth, you also stop fearing loss. You know that losing someone or something that doesn't value isn't really loss. It's alignment. You stop holding on to things that hurt you because you know your worth doesn't depend on who stays or who goes. You become more peaceful, more grounded, more intentional. You no longer respond to disrespect with emotion. You respond with silence and distance. That's power. That's leverage. It's the ability to stay calm in situations that once made you anxious, to walk away from what no longer serves you, and to trust that better will always replace what's gone. Self-worth is also the foundation of all confidence. Without it, confidence is just performance. But when it's real, when it's rooted in deep self-value, it becomes unshakable. You don't need to act tough because you are strong. You don't need to prove your intelligence because you trust your mind. You don't need to chase love because you know you already embody it. That energy shifts your entire reality. People start treating you with more respect, not because they've changed, but because your energy no longer tolerates anything less. Your worth is not determined by your past, your mistakes, your status, or your possessions. It's determined by your ability to see yourself as enough even when no one else does. When you carry that kind of energy, life starts meeting you at the level of your belief. Opportunities, relationships, and success begin to align with the version of you that refuses to settle. Self-worth becomes your leverage because it places you in control. You stop being reactive and start being selective. You stop begging for seats at tables that don't honor you and start building your own. You stop chasing love that costs your peace and start choosing peace that attracts love. You stop existing for approval and start living for purpose. Everything begins and ends with self-worth. It's the foundation of your energy, your boundaries, your relationships, your success, and your peace. When you know your worth, you move differently. You speak differently. You attract differently. You no longer need to demand respect. It becomes automatic because people can only treat you at the level you treat yourself. And when that level rises, your entire life does too. Focus on growth, not validation, because validation keeps you trapped in a cycle of needing approval while growth frees you to evolve without permission. Most people live their lives chasing recognition, like compliments and acceptance. They build their confidence on the fragile foundation of what others think. But the truth is, external validation is temporary. It fades the moment the applause stops, the moment the attention shifts. Growth, on the other hand, is internal. It's the kind of success that no one can take from you. When you focus on growth, you stop performing for approval and start transforming for purpose. You start measuring your worth not by how many people clap for you, but by how much stronger, wiser, and more disciplined you've become since yesterday. Validation feels good for a moment, but it's never enough. It's like a drug. You need more and more of it to feel worthy. Growth feels uncomfortable at first, but it builds something lasting inside of you. It builds resilience, character, and peace. It teaches you that the most powerful version of you isn't the one that everyone admires. It's the one that keeps improving even when no one is watching. When you live for validation, you hand over control of your happiness. You give other people the power to decide how you should feel about yourself. But when you focus on growth, you reclaim that power. You become the one who decides your value, your pace, and your direction. You stop asking for permission to rise. Focusing on growth means shifting your attention from how things look to how things are. It's about doing the inner work, the uncomfortable, unseen, and unglamorous work that builds the real you. Growth is waking up early to work on your goals when no one's cheering you on. It's saying no to distractions, to temporary pleasures, to relationships that keep you stagnant. It's choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term validation. It's choosing to be proud of yourself in silence instead of seeking approval and noise. When you live for validation, you chase outcomes that please others. When you live for growth, you chase evolution that fulfills your soul. Growth requires humility. It means being willing to admit that you're not where you want to be yet, but that you're committed to getting there. Validation demands perfection. It wants to show the world the best version of you even when it's fake. Growth values authenticity. It allows you to be raw, real, and imperfect because that's where transformation happens. When you focus on validation, you hide your flaws. When you focus on growth, you face them. One keeps you stagnant in appearance, the other moves you forward in substance. Growth also means detaching from comparison. Validation thrives on comparison. It needs others to measure your worth against. You start asking questions like, am I better than them? Or do I look as successful as they do? But growth asks, am I better than I was yesterday? And that's the only comparison that matters. When you focus on your own progress, you stop feeling threatened by someone else's success. You start using it as inspiration. You stop competing with others and start collaborating with life. That shift changes everything. It replaces envy with empowerment and insecurity with improvement. Validation is loud. It wants to be seen. It wants applause. It wants confirmation. Growth is quiet. It happens in the moments of discipline, in the silence of self-reflection, in the hours no one sees. Validation needs witnesses. Growth only needs commitment. You can't build a strong life on the weak foundation of other people's opinions. Because opinions change, trends fade, people forget, but growth remains. It compounds. It multiplies. It turns you into someone unstoppable. Every small step, every hard lesson, every failure turned into wisdom. It all builds the person you're becoming. When you focus on validation, you start living reactively. You adjust your behavior based on what others think. You filter your truth to be liked, and you sacrifice authenticity for acceptance. But growth is proactive. It's self-led. It doesn't need a crowd to move forward. Growth means doing what's right for you. Even if it's not popular, it means trusting your own path, even when others don't understand it. It's walking away from what no longer serves you, even when it looks impressive to everyone else. Growth says, I'd rather be improving in private than pretending in public. The more you grow, the less validation you need. Because with growth comes awareness. Awareness of your value, your purpose, your strength. You start realizing that the approval you've been chasing won't fill the void inside you. Only progress does that. Growth gives you confidence rooted in reality, not opinion. You don't need to fake it because you've built it. You don't need to convince anyone because your results speak for you. That's real power. The kind of power that doesn't disappear when someone stops clapping. Growth also requires patience. Validation wants everything fast, the recognition, the fame, the success. Growth takes time. It tests your discipline. It stretches your endurance. It challenges you to stay consistent when results are invisible, but that's how greatness is built. The people who achieve lasting success aren't the ones who chase quick validation. They're the ones who master delayed gratification. They choose the long road of steady growth over the short high of temporary applause. They're the ones who keep building even when no one notices because they're not in it for attention. They're in it for transformation. When you focus on growth, failure no longer scares you because you understand that failure is feedback, it's data. It's not a reflection of your worth, but a step in your evolution. Validation sees failure as humiliation. Growth sees failure as education. That mindset difference separates the average from the exceptional. The more you focus on growth, the more you detach from ego. You stop fearing mistakes, rejection, or criticism because they all become part of the process. You stop trying to protect your image and start investing in your improvement. Growth is also deeply spiritual. It's about expansion, not just of skills or achievements, but of awareness. You start realizing that everything happening to you is shaping you. Every challenge is teaching you something you couldn't learn in comfort. Every delay is refining your patience. Every disappointment is redirecting your focus. Validation doesn't see the lesson. It only sees the loss. Growth, however, sees meaning in everything. It helps you stay grounded in chaos because you know you're evolving through it. When you focus on growth, you stop depending on others to tell you that you're doing well. You become your own source of encouragement. You measure your progress by how much you've learned, how much you've healed, how much more aligned you've become with your purpose. You stop chasing applause and start chasing alignment. You start doing things that stretch you even when they scare you because you know that's where transformation lies. You stop being afraid of discomfort because you understand that growth is supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to test your limits so you can rise above them. Growth changes your energy. People can feel it. They notice your focus, your consistency, your discipline. You don't need to say much. Your actions speak louder than validation ever could. Growth gives you quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything. You no longer need to be seen. You need to be fulfilled. You no longer need to impress. You need to progress. You no longer crave attention. You crave elevation. That's when you know you've shifted from validation to growth. Every time you choose growth, you're choosing long-term power over temporary pleasure. You're choosing inner peace over outer noise. You're choosing depth over display. And the more you live that way, the more unstoppable you become. Because validation fades, but growth compounds. It builds strength, clarity, and purpose that no one can take away. Freedom is the ultimate magnet because when you are fruitfully, mentally, and energetically, you emit a power that draws people in effortlessly. Most people live their lives tethered to outcomes, opinions, and expectations. They seek permission to be happy, to be loved, to be accepted. They wait for someone else to tell them they are enough. That constant need creates an energy of dependence, and dependence repels. People can sense when you're anchored to outcomes, and it makes them feel suffocated, pressured, or obligated. But freedom flips the script. Freedom says, I am whole on my own. I am complete regardless of your presence. I am in control of my energy, my choices, and my happiness. That energy is magnetic because it radiates self-respect, self-confidence, and inner peace. True freedom comes from detachment. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means understanding that your worth, your joy, and your success are not contingent on someone else's behavior or validation. It's the emotional discipline to care without clinging, to love without needing, and to pursue without obsessing. Most people fear detachment because they confuse it with rejection, but detachment is the highest form of respect for yourself and for others. When you live detached, you are free from fear, insecurity, and obsession, and that freedom is irresistible. It tells people that you are strong, centered, and sovereign. It communicates that your happiness is non-negotiable and self-generated. Freedom also creates presence. When you are free, you are fully in the moment, fully engaged with life, and fully yourself. You don't live in anxiety about what might happen or regret about what did happen. You show up with clarity and calm, and that presence is magnetic. People are drawn to those who carry their energy with ease, who do not demand attention but command it naturally. Freedom allows you to move through the world without attachment to outcomes, which means you interact authentically. You are no longer performing, pleasing, or manipulating to get what you want. Instead, you create energy that attracts organically because it comes from alignment with your highest self. The paradox is that the more free you are, the more influence you have. People often think influence comes from control, persuasion, or dominance, but the truth is that influence grows when you stop trying to control. When you are free, people respect you, admire your confidence, and feel drawn to your energy without coercion. Freedom allows others to be themselves around you, which builds deeper, more authentic connections. It's not about forcing attraction. It's about living fully so that others are inspired to gravitate toward your energy. You no longer chase, you magnetize. Freedom also dissolves fear. Fear is a magnetic force in the opposite direction. It repels energy, creates anxiety, and blocks connection. When people sense fear in you, they unconsciously distance themselves because fear feels heavy, unpredictable, and weak. But freedom eliminates fear because it's built on the foundation of self-trust. You trust yourself to handle life, to handle rejection, to handle uncertainty. That trust creates a calm, grounded energy that others feel deeply. It communicates, I am okay regardless of what happens. I am secure in my own life. That kind of energy is rare, and rarity is irresistible. When you are free, you also model authenticity. People are drawn to truth, even if they don't consciously realize it. Authenticity can't be faked. It comes from living aligned with your values, speaking from your heart, and acting in integrity. Freedom allows you to act without fear of judgment because you are no longer dependent on approval. That authenticity magnetizes people because they sense safety, strength, and clarity in your presence. They feel that they don't need to perform or manipulate around you. They are drawn because your energy is stable, grounded, and consistent. Freedom creates space for curiosity and admiration. When you are free, you are not desperate to impress or control outcomes. You allow others to approach you on their own terms. That space creates attraction because people feel a natural pull toward something that is unchained, unpressured, and unneedy. Freedom teaches patience. It teaches that timing matters more than rushing, that alignment matters more than demand, and that the right people and opportunities will naturally gravitate toward you. You no longer beg for connection. You allow it to flow to you, and that flow amplifies your magnetism. Another aspect of freedom is self-mastery. When you are free, you have control over your emotions, thoughts, and actions. You no longer react impulsively or from insecurity. You make decisions from a place of calm, clarity, and intention. People feel that energy because it signals stability and strength. You are no longer a reflection of external circumstances. You are the origin of your own power. That kind of energy is compelling because it is rare. Most people react, cling, and chase, but you operate from sovereignty, and that difference attracts naturally. Freedom also inspires others. People are drawn to those who have transcended the limitations of fear, neediness, and attachment. When someone sees that you are operating from a place of complete self-sufficiency and inner power, they feel a desire to rise to your level. That energy challenges them, not through manipulation or coercion, but through the example you set. They want to match your calm, your clarity, and your independence. In essence, freedom magnetizes not just through presence, but through inspiration. People want to be near those who remind them of their own potential. Detachment and freedom also increase confidence. When you are free from attachment, you no longer question your worth or chase validation. That confidence manifests as effortless charisma. You speak and act from assurance rather than anxiety. You maintain composure even when situations are uncertain. That confidence feels magnetic because people sense that you are anchored in something deeper than circumstance. They sense that you are untouchable by external chaos, which makes them naturally gravitate toward you. Freedom cultivates boundaries. People are drawn to those who protect their energy because boundaries communicate self-respect. When you have clear boundaries, you don't allow people to drain you, manipulate you, or disrespect you. That doesn't make you cold. It makes you powerful. It tells people that your energy is precious and that only those willing to honor it deserve to be part of your life. Freedom is about saying no without guilt and yes without hesitation. That clarity is magnetic because it signals strength, integrity, and alignment. When you are free, you also live in abundance. You are not fearful of losing people, opportunities, or resources because you trust that what is meant for you will come and stay. That abundance mindset attracts others because it communicates that you are not operating from scarcity, desperation, or lack. Scarcity repels because it creates tension and neediness. Freedom attracts because it radiates ease, calm, and empowerment. People want to be around someone who is expansive, not constricted, because energy flows toward energy. Finally, freedom allows joy to flourish. When you are free, you are no longer carrying the weight of worry, fear, or dependence. You are present, engaged, and energized. That joy is contagious. People feel it and want to be near it. It's a kind of magnetism that no manipulation or effort can create. When you operate from freedom, you naturally attract people who resonate with your energy, who elevate your life, and who match your vibration. Your energy no longer begs for attention. It draws it effortlessly. Freedom is the ultimate magnet because it signals completeness, self-respect, authenticity, and presence, and people are instinctively drawn to that energy.